Have you been wanting to make a copy of your old or broken jewelry and use it to make something new? Today I'm going to show you one way to make a silicone mold to do just that. Hello, I'm Amy, and if you haven't seen our channel before, my husband and I are full-time artists who make a wide range of crafts with a variety of techniques. Our channel is filled with craft tutorials and how to get started selling your work. I hope you'll join us on our channel, and if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. I've been using and making silicone molds for 14 years, and they can be used for tons of different crafts, including metal clay, resin, soap making, paper clay, etc. They are easy and fun to make, so let's get started with the supplies. There are a ton of different brands out there, but today we're using the 2-part Amazing Mold Rubber. What I like about this mold rubber is the level of details it picks up from the item. There are several ways to mix it, but I'm going to be using the scale method. You can use the measurements on the provided cups or by mixing the entire container at once by adding the catalyst to the base straight out of the box. I pre-selected these jewelry pieces right here. Most are from large jewelry lots I bought either from the Goodwill or from an estate sale. A lot of them are broken or missing stones, but you can really use any kind of metal or ceramic jewelry you have. Just make sure it's flat on the back, and if it's not, you can use hot glue to make it flat, like this one. This one was fairly curved, so I needed more hot glue to make it flat. With any piece you choose, make sure you fill any holes with glue or some sort of putty to prevent the silicone liquid from filling them. I'm not sure if you can see this, but I filled the hole right here with hot glue. With this one, I had to cut off the back with a pair of metal clippers to get it flat. You also want to make sure that all your pieces are clean as well. You'll also need a scale to measure your mixture. I'm using a scale we use for sending out small parcels, but any kitchen scale will do, which measures small amounts. You may also need a glue gun and glue sticks for further sealing down your mold container, filling any holes, or for making your pieces flat. For the mold containers, I'm going to use old cookie cutters and some plastic cups I got from the dollar store. You can also use these plastic cups for mixing your silicone as well. If you need to cut down anything, grab some wire cutters or other pliers to remove jump rings, etc. I am also using a silicone mat. It's great for gluing on, and if I get any of the mold rubber on it, it will easily come off. Also, if I need to make the back of the item flat, with hot glue, I can push down the piece against this and it won't stick. You can also use baker's paper or wax paper to protect your surface as well. You will also need a stir stick and some gloves as well. I am using this thick tape. I got it years ago for doing resin work, and unfortunately there's no brand name on it, but you can use contact paper or thick packing tape. After I put down my mat, I cut the tape a little larger than the size of my mold container. I'm going to do this little angel on here. I'm going to try to fit 2 in the same mold container. This was actually a broken pin that someone made by gluing on a pin blank. I used my heat gun to remove the backing to make it flat. I'm not sure what this piece was made for, maybe for adding decorative ornaments to furniture or lights. Make sure you have enough space around the edges and push it down. There isn't quite enough contact to the bottom since the metal is so thin, so I expect we'll have to do some cleanup of the mold. I'm going to fit the small lion head on top, but I see it needs to be filled with hot glue first, since it's not flat enough to stick to the bottom of the tape. I'm using the glue while it's not too hot so I don't burn my fingers, and I can shape the glue to where I want it to go if I need to. Now I just push down a bit and any excess glue will fill the empty space. Once it's filled, trim any extra glue and stick the piece down to the tape. In this container, I'm going to put the faux pearl piece. I already pre-flattened it by adding glue to the back. You probably want to be careful using any rhinestone pieces, as I'm not sure what the silicone would do to very old pieces. Once you have the pieces arranged to where you want them, then I suggest gluing around the outside of the mold container. I had a couple that leaked before, leaving the top of the item visible and making a huge mess. I only use a small amount of glue, as it's difficult to remove the glue from the outside of the container. I'm also doing these 2 as well. I had to fill the eyes on the mask, otherwise the silicone would flood through the holes. In the boss is the base and the catalyst. There are also mixing cups and a measuring spoon in case you'd rather measure it instead of weighing it. I'm going to measure 30 grams. Don't forget to zero the scale so the cup isn't part of your measurements. For any amount of base that you measure, you want to add 10% of the catalyst. So 10% of the catalyst will be 3 grams. I better give it another shake since you want to make sure it's mixed well. Usually about one of these cups will fill a small cookie cutter. This is filled up pretty high, but the mixture seems to stick to itself, so I don't make a mess while mixing. Of course, you can use any other disposable cup as well. I like to mix minimal amounts so I don't waste any of the silicone. You'll want to mix until all the pink is basically gone, so about 2 to 3 minutes. You have about 20 minutes of working time, so that's why you want to prepare all of your items and containers first. Once it's mixed, you want to pour it off the edge of the item and let it slowly go around your pieces. This is to reduce any bubbles around your items and to make sure it gets all the details. As I mentioned earlier, I would be careful trying to use an item with rhinestones, especially very old ones, as the silicone could get between the backing and the rhinestone and ruin your piece. Of course, if it doesn't have much value, then don't worry about it. Just seal off any areas you don't want the silicone to go in. The item is pretty well covered. You want to make sure there is enough silicone covering the top so the mold doesn't break when you are using it. I've made molds that were too thin near the bottom, and with a bit of use, they broke apart. But with enough support all the way around, I've had silicone molds I've made last for the entire 14 years. And here are the finished molds. You can see on the back there was a bit of liquid that went under the piece. I'm going to cut any excess silicone with these scissors. I've noticed that even pieces that are completely flat still have a little bit of silicone to trim away. So even things that are flat may not be perfect. Like this one here or this one here. Now let's start with this one. The backing is really stuck to the bottom, but that's probably a good thing so the rubber doesn't drain out. The overlay kind of peels off by itself, but you want to make sure you don't rip off any of the area you want to use for making your new item. I'm going to try to remove as much as I can before taking the silicone out of the container and removing the item. The scissors I have are very sharp and have a narrow tip. These are scissors I actually use for weeding my vinyl when I'm cricketing. Wow, look at how detailed that is. See how it picked up all the details, including the rope design? It's not too thin near the bottom, so it should last for a long time. Let me peel away the rest and show you what they look like. And here are the finished molds. You can see the one with the brass angel had a bit of a reaction with the silicone and left a blue tint to the white area, but overall they turned out really nicely. One thing I should let you know is to make sure you have lots of ventilation, as the catalyst can really irritate your eyes. Although I'm in a large room with a lot of airflow, I got a severe reaction to one of my eyes almost immediately after opening the catalyst. I would suggest doing it under a ventilation hood or even wearing an enclosed mask. I hope you'll join us for the next couple of videos for what we are going to use these for.